Hey everybody, this is Ryan with Rigs of Death Metal. My guest today is Mike Thompson of the band Withered. What's going on, Mike?
Not much, man. How are you?
Hanging in there, enjoying my
Good.
weekend. Hopefully same as you.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, let's just kind of dive right into it and we'll start off with the gear and kind of venture into random shenanigans from there.
Okay. Well, as you can see, I do EVH 5153. I've kind of started the band. When we started the band, we did OG 5150s, the PVs. And I do kind of we were wanting to go sort of, well, in the beginning, we were straight up trying to do the HM2 tone.
Hmm.
When this is way back before all that, whatever that's
Yeah.
whatever that shit's called, HM2 core or whatever those bands are doing. But the because my first time I really loved death metal was thanks to the Swedish scene back in those days, Stockholm, um, and and uh, and like Entombed, of course, but specifically Clandestine was like that thing was crazy. That and then Grave, who is probably at the top of my death metal list, by the way. They uh those are the biggest influences for me tonally. So we kind of chased that, but instead of doing HM2s, we kind of did a Swedish light thing. I call it Swedish.
Yeah.
It's like yeah, we did DS1s in front of the 5150s. And honestly, it was just because in the 90s we went to or actually I wasn't there. Chris, the guy who started the band with me, went to one of the relapse contamination tours,
Hmm.
and I think Morgion was playing, and they were running DS1s in front of 5150s, and he said it sounded incredible, right? And so yeah, so we basically just tried that and really
Yeah.
dug it. And it's just sort of grown from then on, like tone stacking a DS1, especially a stock DS1, because I don't really get into the Keeley style mods or whatever, because they really turn it away from being a DS1 and make it an actually usable overdrive pedal. But
Sure.
I really like, so the thing about the DS1 that it kind of has in common with like the HM2 is that what I call that sort of boss mid scoop. It does that weird mid scoop when you
Hmm.
dime out the tone knob. Um, that that I wanted to keep. So we stuck with that, and then I did a Japanese one, which is a little bit smoother, and so I've been chasing clarity ever since. I loved the tone, but it was just muddy as fuck all the time.
Sure.
So yeah. So that's been the struggle for 20 years now, But I think I'm finally there. So when EVH approached me way back when they first got started, um, I took a gamble on it and just bought the full stack straight out, and then uh, because it was a sick deal. And but the clarity like went a huge notch. I realized how bad my
Oh
right
yeah.
hand was, how floppy a player I was, at the time. Yeah. So I had to tighten up with that, and then the same thing happened with my pickups, and then with my new pedal, my signature DS1 sort of clone thing that we're doing with Michael Klein. So um, so anyway, I know I just kind of touched on several different things,
No,
but
you're good.
yeah. But so yeah, it's the EVH 100 watt, the OG one.
Hmm.
And actually, Dan, our other guitarist, he just bought the Iconic recently, and it sounds the
Okay.
same. It's awesome.
Hell yeah.
So, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just said hell yeah. Like that's good to
Oh,
hear because it's
hell yeah,
everybody's
indeed.
kind of worried where it was sort of like the budget one, where it would kind of sit
Well,
tonally.
let me. I'm going to put a big asterisk disclaimer on there. I don't ever use the dirty channel, so I don't do like or we don't do like what everyone else typically does. I don't think. So all the guys, and honestly, our first U.S. tour back in 2006 was with Dismember, and they ended up having a fiasco with the back line they were renting, and they used our gear on the first show, and then which was just OG, not the block letter, but the signature. It's probably out of frame down here, but I still have my signature 5150,
Okay.
and and they rented. Well, they used our rigs and then liked them, so they ended up renting our backline the whole rest of the tour. And so they literally sat down and showed me how to get that entombed dismember tone straight out of the gate with their HM2s. And
That's
it was
awesome.
amazing for me, at like I was 26 years old or something. And like it was sick, and I love the tone so much that I collect HM2s and variants, but I can't use them. They're so unruly. I don't know if you ever tone stacked one, but it's like
Yeah.
I don't know how these guys do it. It does one thing and the rest is just chaos and garbage and
Yeah.
feedback and insane. So I watched Dismember literally tap dance. Every split second that they weren't playing, they turned off the HM2 because it would squeal. And
Wow.
so like it was awesome too, because they would like the two guitarists would switch sides of stage and they would hit each other's pedals.
Huh.
They were so on top of it. It was incredible to watch. Yeah.
That's
But
wild.
so that was a little too unruly for us, and it was like the like I said, it's a one trick pony kind of thing, right? So if you weren't playing exactly that kind of stuff, then it didn't fly.
Yeah.
So we needed something that would thin out from more of the black metal stuff, but I could still like get that sort of that mid scoop I was talking about when you hit the I don't even know what the actual the proper term is, the power chord with the what's above it, the octave of the high fifth below it. We call it the
Oh,
dismember chord is what I call it. I mean, everybody plays them, but it's real popular with in tune and dismember back in those days,
I
But
think I think I know what you're talking about.
it's just a power chord with the string above it, the root. It's the octave of the fifth. It's
Right. So I guess it would
God,
be,
somebody's gonna chastise me in the comments for not knowing this, but it's one of these.
yeah, okay. So it'd be like a root note, a fourth, and then an octave of the root note.
Yeah, that's
So
exactly right.
yeah.
Or yes, that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, an octave with a fourth in the middle. Is that something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, anybody watching this, tell me what it's called. I've never even bothered to look it up.
I
But
use it all the time too, and I don't know if it has a nickname or not. It's big boy chord. I don't know.
big boy chord. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we call it the dismember chord, and I and that's one of the first things I always do when I fire my rig up at every sound check, just because that's the quickest way for me to know that everything's working. I
Sure.
don't have any signal drop or anything weird like that. Um, so then I'll just work out from the amp. I mean, I'm snaked up to my pedal board. This is the DS1 clone variant thing that Michael Klein built for me. It's basically it's the OG Japanese circuit. It has this clipping switch here. It has a then and a now. The then is the vintage Japanese style diodes. I forget which ones they are. And then there's a popular modern distortion tone that Keeley and some of the guys do,
Hmm.
and that changes the clipping diodes to that one. Which ironically I use now. I prefer it overall once I tone stack. So it gives a little more diversity, because I don't think everybody would want to use this the same way that I do necessarily. So I wanted to give it a little more versatility. It's got a these bottom three are kind of the standard knobs that you get on a DS1.
Hmm.
And again, I forgot to mention, it is using the what is it, the Toshiba, I forgot what the TS808 or something op amp that they used in the Japanese ones
Oh, okay.
in the 80s. And then what I did was I had him add me a low pass filter to be able to peel out as much of that nasty high end, which is what causes a lot of the mud.
Hmm.
This is a boost out so that you can level match the off volume, the clean volume with the on volume, because
Yeah.
these things always suffer a drop,
Hmm.
and we do a lot of clean to heavy parts um, in our songs. So it always was kind of a bummer to like come in on
Right.
a big heavy doom part and and the volume drops a little bit. And then here is the secret weapon, which is it says mix. It's a clean blend knob.
Okay.
So I kind of robbed that from bass pedals back in the day. Honestly, I'm totally going to take credit for this, but I really early on I had Joe at Lone Wolf build me an HM2, one of his left-hand Wrath pedals.
Yeah.
Took the HM2 clone. I was trying to get him to build me a DS1 clone, but he talked me into that. And I was like, okay, well, I need you to put a clean blend on it. And so he
Hmm.
built that for me custom. And the next thing I know, it became standard on his deluxe model. And I was like, oh shit. So I'm totally going to take credit for that. And maybe I'm starting some shit for fun. But so then and I want to back up
Hmm.
a little bit because I ran a stock DS1 I had a TU2 tuner that I would go into this NS2 noise suppressor, which is still my favorite noise suppressor pedal around. It just, man, I've tried other gates and stuff like that, but that thing, man, it just, for me at least, in the way that I play and muting my strings, it does exactly what I expect it to all the time.
Yeah.
It's Yeah, it's badass. And then I would go from that into the distortion, and then straight into this RV5 reverb, which is what I use for all the reverb parts on our first few records. And I always stacked it in the front because I always thought effects loops were too extra and unnecessary, and that was too punk rock or something. But then I realized, finally, in more recent years, I guess, last couple records, I realized that how much better it is when I put all my modulation through the loop, you know. So I went but I still keep this out front because I was using it for clean parts and reverby parts, but
Hmm.
more so I use it for noise stuff. So I use it for loud, like I'll smash this in the distortion for these sort of noise bursts that we do,
Yeah.
which is real cool, a fun thing to do. And then these two guys are in my loop, my modulation. This used to be my go-to. This Hardwire Supernatural pedal. If you're not
Hmm.
familiar with that, Sammy Dewey actually turned me on to this the first time we toured together back in 2013, and it's still one of my all-time favorite reverb pedals. I'm a huge digital reverb fan. Like I just can't get enough of that shit. So if I get stoked about any effects pedals or modulation pedals, it's always reverb. But and that's what the Skull is as well. So then Sammy got he got one of these from Mike Klein and then hit me up about it and was like, "Oh man, you got to try that. You know, the Supernatural is great." He likes this one better, I think, because it's got more of a chorus voicing to it.
Yeah.
Um, I love it. I love it because it's got like a what is it, Logicon algorithm or some shit like that. That's really the good thing about Mike Klein for me is he really loves a lot of the same things that I do. So like a lot of that classic '80s kind of stuff,
Sure.
or late '80s, early '90s heavy stuff. Like those tones that were just so imprinted into my brain are or kind of seems to be where he comes from. So the voicing is always super spot on for me. It's exactly what I just expect, right? Because
Hmm.
I had TC Electronics was helping me out with some pedals, and I was using their delay and their tuner, which was cool because I wanted an always on tuner with just where the switch was just a mute, and their Polytune does it. The problem with the Polytune is it didn't have an indicator on it, so I would never know that it was muted. And
Okay.
then I would go to start a song and forgot that my fucking tuner was muted. So that was became a nightmare. And I finally the Strobo Stomp was the only one that kind of had everything that I wanted and that I could detune down to 432 instead of 440A. So because like I was using a TU2, which I love the TU2,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't do the always on thing, and it would only go down to only like 6 cents or something like that. I think you can detune it. Maybe the TU3s are different, but I've abandoned it so long ago I haven't paid attention.
Yeah.
Um, So the Skull is a fantastic epic reverb kind of thing. Um, and I'm probably gonna work the Supernatural back, and I had some problems with it, which is why it's not in there now. And Mike Klein actually built me this just in time for a previous tour to bail me out when this one started acting up. So and now I love both just equally. So and then I needed I was doing the TC Electronics whatever their I don't even remember their delay and their spark boost
Oh yeah.
for leads. And then I was just so annoyed trying to have to hit both all the time that I wanted a boost delay combo. And their delay, like it was kind of cool that you could like program it with that weird shit where you play your phone through your pickup, and it like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
dials in the settings or whatever. And I liked the Andreas Kisser setting the most, but it was like it still wasn't quite there. There was some weird tonality about it
Mm.
that wasn't like a super amazing. And then Mike got me or I got him to get me one of these because I really loved the demos on it, and he was knocking it out of the park with the other stuff. So I had nothing but faith in him. So I had him build me this one, Chrome and Gold, as a C3PO sort of nod because I'm a little bit of a Star Wars nerd. So
Same.
yeah, man. So and again the voicing on this thing, it's fucking perfect. I just like, man, Mike Klein's the best. He's one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me. And I'm sure Sammy said the same shit, right? When you talk to him,
Oh
but
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
his rig was from amp to pedals, his rig was like 80% Klein, so I feel like
yeah,
he's
it's like a
obligated.
virus, man. It's taking over. And he actually has a noise suppressor that I'm trying to get from him called the Ball Gag, that I want to try out. We just haven't gotten there yet. So many other things going on, but oh, and this is the prototype of the Husk.
Oh, okay.
I always keep a backup. The whole reason in the old days when I was pure boss was I wanted to be able to just walk into any Guitar Center when I was on tour
Mm-hmm.
if something went wrong, and buy a replacement. I hate
Sure.
running around with fucking boutique shit because it's like they go if it breaks, you're fucked. So and that I'm very pragmatic that way on tour, and I like shit that just works, and I never have to look back. I'm not. I love gear, but not. I don't like changing a lot. I find something I like and then I never look back. So
Sure.
yeah. Because I really just want to play, It's this stuff's fun and all, but man, I really want to play. Oh, and I threw this down here just because shout out to Intune for taking care of us. That's part of gear, right? Guitar picks.
Absolutely.
So I'm doing these gosh, I know I'm not supposed to say Tortex, but I don't know I don't remember what they call theirs, the in grip ones or whatever. But it's like a Tortex.
Yeah.
It's an 80. I play an 88, and it's thanks to James Hetfield. I was given a in the 90s on the first Black Album tour. My sister took me to backstage to meet him, and I didn't get to, but somebody took pity on us and gave me tickets and one of his guitar picks, and I recognized it as being a Tortex 88, and so that's kind of how I learned to play. At least my most significant years of learning and practicing. And so between that and playing my old Epiphone Les Paul, which was my first like name brand guitar that I ever had,
Hmm.
was fucking like that's it. Again, I never look back. You know what I mean? I try new shit and other shit and jazz picks and all that kind of stuff. Again, yeah, I bought it turned out it was like a factory second 90s Korean Les Paul
Hmm.
Honeyburst. And it's got the 60s like slim taper neck, which seems to be a lot more popular on the Epiphones for some reason than a lot of the Gibsons. But you're probably more of a shredder guitar guy, huh? Like Jacksons and that kind of stuff.
At an Ibanez and shit like that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
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 for sure.
understood. Yeah, I have the only other. So I've been a Les Paul guy pretty much my whole life, but it does have to be the slim 60s taper, especially the D shaped neck that I
Yeah.
really like. The only other guitar that got me to that degree that I really dig is One is a Dean, an old Korean Dean V that I have
Okay.
from way back, picked up in the early '90s. Actually, Chris, our old guitarist, he picked it up when him and I used to have a grindcore band, and and I inherited it from him when he quit Withered and quit performing, and the and that thing's got a really similar neck, and I love it. And then also my other love is the Jackson Dinky. That
Oh yeah.
thing, man, that neck. Even the super cheap ones. I've got a cheap one, a little $200 one that I picked up off of Facebook Marketplace or something, and I love that guitar too. Yeah, that thing feels really good. Yeah, I had one. I bought one when I was teaching guitar lessons when I was like 19 years old or something, because
Hmm.
I was playing in like drop A or something back then.
Yeah.
So I had to buy a second guitar that I could tune standard for lessons, and I picked up one of those and I ended up falling in love with it. So yeah,
I you know what's funny? I've actually never owned a Jackson. I've played so many of them in stores, and I don't know why. It just didn't work out that way. I'm sure I will at some
yeah.
point.
I feel this. I kind of feel the same way about Ibanez's. I don't have anything against them, but they never like they play fine, but they never like I never like got that warm and fuzzy from it.
Sure. And
Yeah,
I do have an LTD Eclipse that I love. That was my main guitar whenever I was gigging all the time.
yeah,
And a lot of
man.
ESP necks all kind of have like a similar sort of feel.
Uh huh.
Uh I mean they're pretty shreddy, but they're definitely not like that Ibanez like wafer thin kind of wizard neck. My top guitar right now is this one I had built by a small company called WKM,
Uh huh.
and the neck is somewhere between a Jackson and an Ibanez. It's a little more rounded like a Jackson, not as like wide and flat,
Yeah,
but it is a little bit thinner. And that thing shreds. It's awesome.
that is awesome, huh? Yeah, I think that's what it is about the Ibanez. I've got really long fingers, and I'm not a guy. I much more enjoy playing riffs. I mean, I like leads are fun and all, but like the stuff that really gets me off are like really meaty riffs, you know.
Yeah,
So like I'm like I gotta have it like like locked in right into the webbing there,
sure.
and that's like that grip really feels that way. So I need a little bit of meat there for it.
Yeah.
The whole like doing this kind of thing, it's like the weight's got to be right.
Right. Yeah.
you know? Yeah. I'm too lazy to have that much dexterity. Yeah.
I man, it makes me kind of miss this guitar that I did have. It was this Silver Burst. Have you seen the Woodwright guitars from
Uh-uh.
Does It Doom? The YouTube channel Does It Doom. Put out like
Yeah.
their own they put out their own line of guitars, and they kind of look like the old first act DCs.
Oh yeah. Really.
Yeah, it all actually they look exactly like that. It's not even kind of. They're like copying the first act DC quite a bit. But like a little bit more Les Paul spec. And
Yeah.
I had a really sick Silver Burst one that I just needed the money, and it was the one that I did. It was like a newer one, so I didn't get this bond with it as much as the others, so
Yeah.
it it hurt the least amount to sell, you know what I mean? But
Yeah. I'm doing
yeah,
the same thing right now with a Pure Salem. This Pure Salem La Flaga. It's like a double cutaway, sort of SG style, a little bit fatter, and a
yeah,
Bigsby. Like for some reason, I love the look of a Bigsby.
yeah.
And they're like just it's like so thick looking to me, but it just not like death metal at all, man. It does not. So I finally admitted it to myself, and I never play it, and it's just not. I don't know. I thought I was going to broaden my horizons by having a guitar like that,
Hmm.
and I want to do a locking tremolo. I don't know what I was thinking. Anyways, it's for sale now. So if anybody's interested in one of those, hit me up. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, but I feel you. I feel you on that one. So, oh, and speaking of which, I guess that's a nice segue into guitars, right?
Yeah, I was about to ask.
This is my main man right here. It's a 2001 or two. It's a oh no, it's got the weird. It doesn't have the traditional serial number, and it's a '60s classic reissue.
Hmm.
It's like a I think it's an '02 or an '03. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. '03, I believe. If this is right. The I bought it brand new in 2005 after touring Europe with Mastodon. They took us over there for like a couple of weeks, and I was playing that Honeyburst Epiphone that I had since like ninth grade, and I was like, it's time for me to finally get a Gibson, right? So I started shopping um, and found this dude at Guitar Center who ended up being a big Mastodon fan, and I talked my way into him getting me like selling me this guitar for cost or something.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and I've modified it quite a bit since then. Got to replace the nut with a bone nut, and I'm running Avidithian rail splitters, which man, so that clarity thing that I was talking about earlier with my tone, my go-to pickup for the longest time was the DiMarzio X2N, because it was just so hot and had tons of output, and it
Yeah.
just crushed, man. And this whole rig setup, it was amazing, but again, it was super muddy.
Mm.
So when Alex started making pickups and stuff, he was bugging me for a while, and then he was like, "Yeah, I got this pickup I want you to check out." After I told him what my concerns were with the X2N, and he kind of knocked it out of the park. So it's got all the output, and it's so musical, man. You can hear every string,
Yeah.
and it was once again one of those moments where I had to really like practice because I could hear how sloppy my right hand was, even more so. So that rules. I love these things so much. And then I did. This is one of those Fishman piezo like acoustic pickups. So it makes it
Nice.
sort of sound like an acoustic guitar.
Hmm.
We were doing our last album has an acoustic track on it. We were doing it live on the first tour we did for it. And I was looking at like acoustic Sims and shit like that,
Yeah.
but all of it sounded really stupid, like pedals or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then I saw, and it just so happened right at that moment when I was shopping for one, I saw an article about Jerry Cantrell's signature series Les Paul, and it said that he was doing this Fishman bridge pickup to emulate acoustic shit live. And I looked it up, and I was like, "That's perfect." So I ended up getting one of those and putting that in there. And then otherwise, I replaced the classic tuners because it had I don't know if you're familiar with the classic Gibson tuners, are kind of the old school ones with the open casings
Oh
that
yeah. Yeah.
they're a little bit looser, right? They're not as precision. They're not precision tuners.
Right.
So when I did the Fishman thing, I did these tuners as well. I haven't they're I think they're Kahlers. No, they're what's the other K company? I can't even read. Clousons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And they're badass. The super precision tuners. That was really nice too. Yeah, I don't know. I did top hats here. My brother runs a CNC engraver at his job, so he made this for me, which was super sick. The pick guard,
Oh yeah.
which I don't know if you can see there. Yeah,
I wondered
but
if that was like a sticker or how you got that.
no,
That's
no, no. It's
cool.
engraved to it's like the black,
That's
white,
sick.
black layered thing. Yeah, so he engraved down to the white layer.
Huh.
Yeah, it turned out awesome. I couldn't be more stoked about it. Um, and then my other favorite move of all time, which I did a long time ago, are these DiMarzio clip locks. These things. This is like a 10-pound guitar, man. It's heavy as fuck. I've been playing it for so long. I pick up anything else, it feels like I'm going to break it. But
Sure.
um, yeah, yeah.
That
Especially like all the Jacksons and ESPs and stuff.
yeah. Dude, that Woodwright guitar I had, that Silver Burst one, it was the same thing. To go from one to any of the other ones, it's jarring. Um,
Yeah,
it almost is like going from a seven to a six string or something, or a bass to a guitar. It's just
yeah.
it takes you a minute to kind of acclimate.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, and it's, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. My backup guitar is a an Epiphone custom. It's set up all the same. It doesn't have the Fishman. It's got one of the earlier prototype or the one of the first version rail splitters that Al did for me. Other than that, it's pretty much stock. Yeah, this is just like a no fucking around guitar, man. And this one feels great too. It's got the same neck. It's also the like one I'll take to Europe and shit like that.
Yeah.
To fly with, because it's already actually suffered a headstock
Oh,
crack, which I can see that. Yeah, last time I went to Europe, I opened up my case, and sure as shit, I don't know if I forgot to detension the strings or something,
mhm.
or if it just took just a perfect blow to fuck it up, but not the other guitar that was in there. But yeah, it's all good,
Sure.
how it goes. Which then brings me to my Enki road case. Everybody knows those, right? Those things are amazing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love it because it lives right next to my amp on stage, so it's a guitar boat all in one, same kind of thing. So I got the first gen one, so I need to upgrade the insert. I was just talking to them about that, so
Nice.
hopefully make that happen soon.
Say
Um,
Enki has very quickly become sort of like almost a standard for touring guitar players. It feels like everybody's using them these days.
Yeah, I've looked at some of the other ones, like what's it, Quantum and those guys.
Yeah.
Curious about that. I like the idea of a three guitar one because when we go to Europe, we can put all three guitars. That is, if it's light enough. So like, if I
Yeah.
put two guitars in my Enki, it just barely comes under the 50-pound thing where it's like the that goes super expensive to
Sure.
fly with. But that's not something most people I think have to worry about too much, I guess.
Out of
Oh,
hmm?
Oh, sorry, I'm trying to remember everything. Everybody that's like taking care of me, gear wise. That my pedal board is this Irish company called Ruach. That
Hmm.
it's like really really well made, handcrafted wood pedal boards. Ruach, really awesome. They were pure gentlemen. When I just stumbled upon them and really loved the way they looked, and I reached out to them, and they're very patient with me and everything. So, and I like because they got the ports and stuff, um, and all that kind of stuff. Oh, and I'm running a Chox power supply, which
Okay.
that's the way to go.
Sure.
If you don't want people to make fun of you, I guess that seems. I was for the longest time I was running like an Amazon cheapo thing. Like I don't,
Right.
yeah, I don't. I hate wasting money if I don't have to, but that supernatural pedal, you can run it at like 12 volts and shit, and
Hmm.
it needs a lot of current too. So I was really starting to it's getting flaky for sort of there for a minute, but so I went to the Chox, and it's all good, and I'm doing all of the since I was a kid, I've only ever played Diodario EJ21s. They're the Jazz Light set, but they're 12 to 52, but with a wound third. That's
Sick.
what that's where the magic's at. So when you do
Sure.
those member chords and you drop the extra fifth down there, it's like I want as much meat as I can get. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So yeah, that's I've loved them forever and always. They sent me some of the NYXLs, which are last longer and they're a little bit brighter, but the tension, they feel like they have a little more tension than the XLs.
Hmm.
So I've kind of started like I like them, but I kind of started going backwards to the cheap XLs again. Like
Yeah.
there's like a sweet spot, man. Like after like one set, I'll get like two or three shows that are just bliss out of them, and then it's time to change them again or whatever. But
Right.
you know, or I get twice as much out of the NYXLs, but they don't give as much or something. There's like a tension thing that's like a little bit less comfortable for me, but I do like them. I do like them a lot. Diodario is actually they've been taking care of us since almost the beginning, and I don't know what I'd do without them, man. It's kind of like the gas in your car or something. That shit.
Right.
It's not just the strings. It's like all their accessories and stuff. So like we do all the Planet Waves, or now they're D'Addario cables. I guess they brought them under the main brand, right? So it's like um, um, I'm doing those American stage cables. You know what I'm talking about?
I
They're
don't think
the
I've seen them.
they're high end cables. They have the full metal case ends.
Okay.
So their standard ones are like the molded plastic, right? And
Yeah.
they're great. I used them for a really really long time. Um, but then I decided to give these a go. Last time I re-upped, and I'm not sure what these are like. They're really high end connectors, and they got like a custom shaped tip or something to them to help to
Hmm.
give it like a deeper groove for the jack to like lock in or whatever,
Yeah.
for the whatever you call it, the spring tab thingy. But yeah, and I used to make cables. In my first job at a guitar store, I used to sit in a dungeon-esque back hallway and make cables for the store because we had our own brand of cables. So I sit back there puffing solder fumes and listening to cassette tapes in a cinder block room. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I do have a soft spot for cabling, but and
I
I think that's it. That's all my shit.
if if you mentioned it, then I think I missed it, but I just want to be sure we cover everything.
Sure.
What tuning are you guys in?
Oh, I did not mention it. And we're in C standard.
Okay. I I kind of suspected because I'll send you a video later. I did a pedal demo. I don't I think maybe sometime last year
Uh-huh.
of a Blackhawk amps Sauron distortion,
Oh, okay.
and it's sort of like he Frankensteined this metal zone type circuit, and it's
Mm.
got two different sides to it. One side sounds like an HM2, the other side kind of sounds like that DS1 grave withered kind of tone.
Now
And
you're talking.
I recorded two real quick little tracks. One was kind of inspired by you guys, the other was kind of inspired by Dismember. And I used that
What
Silverburst.
else is
Yeah, I used that Silverburst guitar in C standard. And I'm like, sounds, at least to my ears, I'm like, this sounds pretty close to Withered. I'm pretty stoked about this. So
Oh, that rules. Yeah, man.
I want to
I'd
send it
love
to
to
you,
check that
and
thing out.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to get an opinion from the source. See how
Oh,
close I got.
I would love to, man. That's amazing. Just don't tell Mike Klein. I might buy one.
Yeah, Mike, Mike earmuffs. Um,
Yeah, earmuff.
which I think I've got three pedals from Klein, and like I've got the ball gag noise gate,
Oh.
and his Chrysogrim overdrive,
Hmm.
and then
That was that for Exhumed or somebody, Matt Harvey or something?
I think the Chrysogrim was his first overdrive. It was just like
Oh.
an overdrive that has enough gain on tap to be a distortion, and it had like a three band EQ and a tack knob. It's just a super versatile, I guess. Like, I don't. It doesn't have like a inherent mid hump. I don't know if it's closer to like a Boss or an Ibanez or Maxon or whatever, but uh,
Yeah.
just kind of like a Swiss Army knife overdrive. And then he also built me a clone. Like, it's a one-off thing. I don't think he's made this for anybody else yet. Not to brag, but it's like the TC Electronic integrated preamp that they've made, like everybody makes a clone of it now. Fortin did the grind and the 33,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yep.
like the Meshuggah pedal. Um
Yeah.
he made a clone of like all three and put it all into one pedal.
Damn.
So it's just like it's got a toggle to go between like it can do just the TC thing with a treble, a bass, and a level. Flip a toggle and it's in the Fortin mode, and it just uses the level control for in a general sweeping EQ of either the grind, or flip the
Uh-huh.
toggle and it's the 33. with just like
Oh, wow.
fixed EQ bands, and they're really cool on Marshalls and Mesas. Like, I don't
I was
know.
gonna say they probably stack in front of a Mesa amazingly.
It it works really, really fucking well. I've got I used to have a two channel dual rectifier. I've got a Kemper now because I'm mainly just doing studio stuff.
Sure.
And as soon as I sold, because I had a Rev F dual rec, and I was so hesitant about selling it, but I hooked up with this guy that the company's called Amp Guru,
Uh-huh.
and he had made a profile pack of the same amp I had. So the first thing I did when I got it, I loaded that up and I just started testing my pedals out in front of it through and ran it through my cabinet here in the room, and I'm like, oh my God, it it nailed it.
Man, man, that's
But
badass. Yeah, I was totally an emulator hater for the longest time, but
same.
well, I mean, and obviously in its younger years, it was not there, right? It just couldn't
Right.
hang. But nowadays, man, it's fucking unbelievable, man. It's like my stepson, he's gotten real serious last couple of years over playing guitar,
Hmm.
and he knows. I mean, that's all he does is just play it through Logic. He doesn't even use an amp,
Wow.
So he
Yeah.
just it's kind. I guess that's just how it works these days. I mean, I'm doing it now too because we demo that way. Um, Positive Grid. A shout out to James Dunkley, by the way, in the UK. Um, he um, he took care of us on our first Europe tour with PV stuff because he was at PV,
Hmm.
and then Steve Tucker, speaking of West Virginia, um, was bragging to me about the Positive Grid. They got the amp and you can load it with all the shit, and he was using it for his bass rig. One of the last times they came through and hooked me up with James, which turned out to be the guy that took care of us from PD ages and ages ago. And so he sent me the bias amp and the other thing, and bias effects or whatever it was. And
Hmm.
man, and that shit's like it's gotten so good. But my kid, he's got like all the neural stuff,
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean. Like it's just insane.
I was actually using the Positive Grid stuff to write some tunes last night. Um, they've got like an emulation of a Soldano SLO that I like a
Yeah,
lot. That one's pretty cool, and they like completely. I don't know anything about the digital side of it, but I guess they've completely like revamped a lot of their speaker cabinets.
uh huh,
Which I've got a ton of IRs that I load into different stuff all the time, but
huh.
they're like new cabinets are actually they're pretty sick. Kind of mess around with them a bit, move the mics and blend
Yeah,
different
yeah. I've,
mics
I've
and
been doing all of that. I kind of like I have these phases like with gear or anything where I just like don't use it for forever. Like I only really use it when we're writing and demoing for albums, And so it's like every 4 years or something,
yeah.
I'll actually like use it. And I just recently started doing it again because we just started writing. Um, and decided to take it more seriously. Before I would just like I'd pick one like that heavy metal preset, boom, and then like never look
Yeah.
back, right? And then just do it, just means to an end. But now I'm like my stepson is like he's shown me so many awesome things that he's using. It's like makes me feel so old. So I figured I might as well brush up on it, and I did, and I've been really enjoying all of that. Messing with the mic placement and everything. It's
Sure.
pretty convincing, yeah, these
Absolutely.
days.
And do you are you familiar with the company that does Sammy's cabs, Arachnid?
I'm familiar with them. Yeah, yeah. Sam and I talked about it a lot.
The Rob Calhoun is the guy that owns the company and does all the building. He
Uh-huh.
just sent me a bunch of impulse responses of some cabs he's built. One of them's the Gary Holt cab.
Wow.
Another is like his personal one loaded with Eminence, and then he has an oversize loaded with Eminence. And I've had fun testing those out, blending them. I mean, I lost like a whole afternoon into the evening and like almost like forgot to have dinner and stuff, just messing with them.
Yeah, man. I know that feeling. That's awesome. Huh. Man, that's curious. I want to see if I can get my hands on some of those.
Um,
I used to be a big Eminence guy. Like I was Dan is using my old uh crate blue voodoo
oh,
calves.
nice.
And they had eminences in them from the factory, and they were really sick. They ended up popping. I don't even know what I've put. I think there's some Celestians in there now, or it's like a mix.
Hmm.
But yeah, I used to be really big into those. To really enjoy them.
It's like
They got
I've
they tended to be a little too bright though,
oh yeah,
which is like my big issue all the time
sure.
with my setup. So I'm doing all. I think I just do everything wrong and make it overly complicated. So I try to. Would run like really high headroom power tubes, so it'd be really clean. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? I wouldn't. I was like, I don't want any tube break up. I should have just played solid state or something, but it's not as cool. So
Just
yeah,
load in a Roland jazz chorus or something.
yeah, dude,
Yeah.
I love those amps too, man. Those things are sick. Colin Marston uses one of those for his bass rig, the 212,
Really?
the Roland. Yeah, he uses that, and then I think he pumps it, and then he has a head or something else that he pumps through an 810 or a 410, but he uses it for sort of the Roland for like this kind of like almost distorted tone. It's it's crazy. It's super super cool. Yeah, yeah, it was a lot of fun
It's
learning that,
it's
working with him. Yeah,
surprising, but like from him, not that surprising. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. So if you're gonna see Gorguts, that's what's going on. You'll see that thing up there, man.
see,
It's
that's
pretty
so
nuts.
wild because I saw them last year, and I guess I just didn't pay attention, or I just couldn't see it, or something. But that's
Yeah, I think you
weird.
had it last time. I saw them too. I either imagined seeing it because I'm just used to seeing it,
Yeah.
or I'm pretty sure he had it. Like it's kind of his thing. It's kind of his
Huh.
move.
Damn. Um,
Yeah, it's weird.
do you while we were talking about like cabinets and everything, I was curious, do you know what's stock in the EVH cabs? Don't they have like their own proprietary like
I don't know if they
25
do
watt?
now. These I think are like vintage 30s or whatever.
Okay. Sick.
Yeah, yeah, which is it is a little in the wrong direction as far as what I was just talking about with like breakup because they like to break up, but I really
Oh
like
yeah.
them, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they only built the straight cabs, and so they're
Hmm.
like there's more airspace and you
Yeah.
know what I mean. There's more volume to them, so they're very very resonant and low end heavy, even though it's vintage 30s and I really dig them. Which does remind me, the only thing I could think of when you messaged me about doing this and you said you were going to ask about gear that I was excited about.
Yeah.
One is you reminded me is Mike Klein's head. That thing is fucking unbelievable,
Yeah.
man. That yeah, that tour we did, that tour with Goat that we met on was first time I got to see it in person
Hmm.
and really mess around with it a little bit. And it's literally what Mike intended it to be, an amp that could do just about anything.
That
So
is sick.
yeah, it's something else, man. So that's cooking in the back of my mind. I just gotta be able to afford it. Those things aren't
Sure.
cheap, but nothing good, isn't worth the pain. So, but the other thing was gonna be, I was talking to Greg from Earhammer Studios.
Yeah.
He mixed our last record and stuff. He was supposed to record it, but it was COVID, so flying and all that wasn't
Oh
happening.
yeah.
But I was talking with him not too long ago, just catching up and seeing what was going on, and he was telling me about he just finished doing the new Necrot, I think,
Hmm.
and he was saying that Sonny and then actually all the other bands that he had just had in there were all nerding out on these. He has this Villa cab. It's a 212, and I think it has a vintage 30 or maybe a greenback as
Hmm.
one, and has a creamback as the other. So they're doing
Okay.
a half and half blend, and I don't know why I never thought of that, but it blew my mind. And
Hmm.
yeah, and he says you get mics on both of them, and you can literally do whatever the fuck you want. He says it's just you can find exactly what you need, from all the way from breakup and nastiness to
Yeah.
smoothness and everything in between, and like And man, it gave me goosebumps when he was describing it to me because it's kind of thing I've always sort of fathomed, but never
Sure.
occurred to me to blend speakers like that. So that might be one of my next moves uh, is checking that out. Maybe just buying some and slapping them in here
Yeah, you could always like just buy
and do it.
two and do like an X pattern or something, and you know,
Yeah,
that'd be
yeah,
cool.
of course.
It's
Yeah, and yeah, especially because we do like we speaking of X pattern, that's what we do live. So I'm pumped through Dan's lower cab,
oh, okay.
and then he's pumped through mine, and that's kind of a him and I both were in the Atlanta punk scene doing house shows in basements a lot back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And so like out of necessity and punk rock ingenuity, if you want to call it that, it's kind of like you play so many shows where everything's not mic'd that and with Withered, we with such differing guitar parts, right? If
Hmm.
you're standing on one side of the stage or the other as a listener, you're only getting half the story. You're not
Sure.
hearing the harmonies and stuff. And my OCD that won't allow for that. So we figured if we do this thing, the X pattern thing, then hey, it's sort of like built-in monitors, so I can hear what the hell
Right.
he's doing, and vice versa. And then also anybody that's over here can kind of get the all of it together.
Sure.
Um,
I think Skeleton Witch used to do that if they don't still do that
I
too.
was just gonna say that's who I got it from. I got the idea from.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, back in 2007, they asked us to do a few dates with them around the southeast, and we did, and they were doing that, and I was like, "Oh, it's genius! Why not? Once
Yeah.
again, why didn't I think of that?" So, yeah,
I I that whole spiel kind of resonates with me just because house shows made up at least like a third of the shows that I've ever played. So I always kind of look at
yeah,
gear.
easily.
Huh?
I said easily for me too. Yeah, I did
Sure.
my old days. Yeah,
I uh I always look at gear from the standpoint is like, would I play this in some crust punk's living room where it's probably gonna get beer spilled on it or stepped on or something like, So like when I see like neural DSP, like the quad cortex or any $1,000, $1,500 floorboard, like I just kind of look at it and cringe like, oh God, that's gonna get destroyed and I'd be out so much money.
yeah. There's two things you got to do, right? You either like what I was saying before, you buy like cheap Boss shit and figure out how to make it
Yeah.
work for you, so that and not that Boss is cheap, but you know what I mean. Like it's readily
Sure, sure.
available and affordable. I love Boss, by the way. That was not a slam. And so you either got to go that route, knowing that it's going to get beer and stuff dumped on it, or when you decide to adopt a piece of gear, no matter how special it is to you, you got to accept the fact that it's it's going to take some abuse and that you're giving it the life it's intended to live. I mean, who doesn't want to go down in a blaze of glory on stage, right?
Right.
Rather than be some bedroom museum piece that never gets to go out and see the world and play with its friends, right? So I try to. That's how I feel about all my gear. It's
Sure.
all living and breathing, and it all has a bit of a spirit to it. So I want it to live the life.
Eventually, every boss in Ibanez TS9 goes to Pedal Valhalla. And
Yeah, that's right.
it's
That's exactly right, man. At least that's how I justify it in my mind when I fuck something up or dump beer on it or something.
sure. Hey, tools wear out. You got to replace them at
Yeah,
some point?
yeah, it's exactly right. It's like my Kershaw pocket knife, man. I would use it to do all kinds of shit, and I'd have dudes on tour like give me a hell. What? Don't do that to your knife, man. That's your knife. And I'm like, motherfucker, this is a tool.
Yeah,
This thing's made to cut shit, and I guess that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cut anything with it.
right.
Yeah, it's gonna go down swinging like everything should. So
Hell yeah. Um, editing note. Um,
yeah.
are we still good on time? I remember you had it's
Oh
about
yeah,
one.
I'm good. I'm good for a little while. That's why I tried to make sure it was plenty early.
Sweet.
I don't have to leave for a couple of hours, and
Okay,
so
okay,
it's all good, man.
okay, cool. Because I did want to kind of get into like songwriting kind of stuff, and I just want to make sure that
Please, Please,
Sweet.
I love gear and all of that, but I'm not. I've always been like a wallflower in the guitar player world because I don't like I when I was a kid, man, and there was all the metal dudes in school playing shit that like everyone was trying to shred, and they're like, oh, I wanted to too because that was cool, was to be the lead guitar player and stuff. But it never quite resonated with me. Like, I literally spent all of 10th grade learning every single note on And Justice for All. Like, that's the most formative album in my entire history. So if anyone ever wants to know why I do anything, it's because of And Justice for All. I mean, even like the car I drive, probably. Who knows? It's like so embedded into my psyche that's just kind of the thing. But um, so, and well, what I finally realized was that songwriting was really where I thrive. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So like riffs, it's riffs. It's actually one of Sammy's famous quotes for me. It's all about the heavy riffs, bro.
I
So
love
I
it.
throw that one out every couple times a year or something, probably.
Sure.
Yeah.
It I feel like I kind of borrowed this from somebody, but I can't remember where. But it is like a funny thing. Like I love doing like the shreddy lead playing kind of stuff, and that's fun. But it's like it's after spending years, like literal years of woodshedding for hours trying to just do something like a sweep arpeggio or something. It's like you spend so much time and effort for something that takes up like not even a quarter of your musical output. Like it's such a
Yeah.
small little moment, if at all. Um, so it's just weird, but I like the idea of being technically proficient enough to translate ideas that you have, but
Yeah.
but after a certain point, it's like I don't know, it just becomes more equate to like bodybuilding or weight training. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah,
like you're just
100%. Yeah.
yeah.
I think that, don't get me wrong. I think you should be adequately proficient at your craft. I think you should, because I can shred decently, which I do a little bit on Withered stuff, but I don't do it to do it, right? But I think that proficiency is like having that capability in your toolbox, and all that's
Hmm.
going to do, even as a songwriter, it's going to help you sort of get where you want to go. You're not going to be limited by these things
Yeah.
that can't do something, right? So like if you can stretch, and you can, you come up with crazy shapes and stuff like that, or you can, for me, I've never accepted a limitation, I guess, especially when it came to writing and playing guitar, that or anything really in life. Listen, if some other human being with 2 legs, 2 arms, 10 fingers can do something, I
Yeah.
can fucking do it too. I just said you just got to learn it.
Sure.
It's never a matter of ability, it's just a matter of commitment, right? So, um, so I think once you get to a certain point of proficiency as well, then you have enough confidence in yourself that it'll, for me at least, it's removed a lot of mental blocks or limitations. And so I'm always looking for something I've never heard before, or something I've never, like a texture an energy that's like um, just curious and fresh. Like, just so there's always a little thing that lays down in there. It's like a little worm in the piece of wood, or so. I don't even know how to put it. It's like something like that. It's like this little thing that you can tap into, and it's just a specific shade of emotion or something that fucking just makes me say wow. And that's when I know it's time to like see where that goes. It's like finding
Yeah.
a new vein of something. Yeah.
Well, obviously for your formative years. I know you quoted Justice for All, and
Oh
then
yeah.
as far as what got you into death metal, it would be the Swedish scene. Uh, you know, in particular Grave, which uh definitely hear Grave. I hear a little bit of Autopsy too, funny enough, like in
Oh,
moments.
that's cool. Autopsy is sick. I didn't get into. I didn't really. They were off my radar up until a recent, God, 5 or 10 years maybe. Like
Okay.
I'm a, I like. I have a really weird relationship with death metal. First time I heard it, I laughed. It was Cannibal Corpse, I think, and but then like I said, a buddy of mine, a guitar buddy of mine, showed me "You Will Never See," and I was like, this is the coolest fucking thing I've ever heard," you know. So that started, and then another guy was like, "Oh, well, if you like that, you should listen to Entombed," and he made me a cassette that had Left Hand Path and Clandestine on there. So You'll Never See and Clandestine are two big ones for me. I want to make that very
Sure.
specifically clear, and then uh, the I also really liked um, Obituary.
Okay.
And it was a big time accident. I was giving a friend of mine a ride to school, and he had this cassette tape, and he goes, "Hey, I found this in a ditch walking down the road. It's awful, but you might like it because it's that heavy metal shit you've been listening to." And I put it in, and it was Slowly We Rot. And
Nice.
I'd never heard of Obituary before. Like, I didn't have a whole lot of friends that were really into any extreme music. You know, I was kind of just out there on my own, stumbling onto shit. That album still fucking rules, man. And it's something, and it's just that sludgier sort of Alan West stuff, you know, that I
Oh
think
yeah.
really got me. I'm definitely a mid-paced death metal guy when it comes down to it. So the Tucker era Morbid Angel is like, you know,
Right.
that's what there too for me. But um, yeah, so but yeah, there's some of that more obscure old school stuff that escaped me for the longest time. Yeah, it's weird.
Well, the Morbid Angel uh influence probably answers like one of my other questions. Because I definitely hear a lot of Grave and early Swedish influence in your all's music, but uh there's a lot more experimentation and a lot broader songwriting that I really, really enjoy.
Yeah,
And I kind of wondered where a little bit of that came from, but uh Morbid, definitely one of the more experimental bands in the genre for
yeah,
sure.
I'll to be honest, I would say that might be a somewhat accidental from the Morbid Angel side of things. I've had a tumultuous relationship with them as a fan. Like, I was never really an early Morbid Angel fan that much. I saw them plenty of times, but I never like sat down and like really listened to their records and spent a bunch of time with it until again a little bit later on,
Hmm.
um, because I wrote them off with the Dave Vincent stuff. Really, just never. I just didn't. It did nothing for me, right? So I was even a latecomer to the Tucker era stuff, but uh, sometime after Gateways was a few years after it came out. I finally someone was playing it, and I was like, "Oh, this is sick! What is this?" And then mind blown, you know. So the I would say that a lot of the experimentation stuff probably comes from not death metal at all. It would be uh, I'm a huge Neurosis fan. So,
Okay.
early Neurosis is a they're really one of my all time favorite bands. One of probably only two or three bands I ever like cried at a concert. Like, it was just that moving. And that's kind of the thing
Mhm.
for me too. It's really about that experience. That's all I've ever wanted to do was try to uh, influence someone an ounce of what some of those bands have done for me. So it's
Sure.
like that. That was real big for me. I'm a big fan of the whole Oakland thing, anyways. That sort of Bay Area stuff. So like the and then so on the second album, it was weird that when we first started the band, we literally said we wanted to be black metal Neurosis. was the our synopsis of the day.
Okay.
And then next thing I know, a couple of years later, uh, uh, Chris was like, "Man, you should check out this Weakling record," and that record blew my mind. That thing still blows my mind. That's still a massive influence for me. I think that record, Neurosis, is Times of Grace, and Through Silver and Blood, You'll Never See, and Justice for all of those. Whenever Withered starts to write, that all comes right back into my playlists. I always want to reconnect to where I was at on any of writing our previous records. I try to go all the way back to the first record and remind myself all the way back up for several reasons. I always want to be true to Withered, but every record I just want to bring one new thing in. You know what I mean? And just
Yeah.
keep adding something to it, something that just to be fresh for me, because we have to play this shit 1,000 fucking times, right? So if it's not, it's got to hold up, man. Just for that reason alone, it's like I want songs to have the staying power. So,
Yeah.
oh, and I was gonna say, as far as death metal goes, Dead Congregation is like the greatest death metal band ever. I think they're unbelievable.
Oh yeah. Uh, one I need to delve into a little bit more, admittedly, but I'm sure I will whenever we get off here. Just
It's sort of like Blackened, Tucker era, Morbid Angel,
okay.
and it actually that first album, Graves of Archangels,
Hmm.
fuck, it's so good, man. It's just
Oh
so
yeah.
good. Yeah, they're still one of my all time favorite bands, especially newer bands, that are
Um,
super. So
it I'm it does kind of satiate the curiosity I had about your all songwriting though when you with the Neurosis influence, which um I,
oh yeah,
I've kind of fallen off a little bit since that last record of theirs came out, but which was a while ago. But probably just because I used to be so absolutely obsessed with that band. Like it was all I listened to for like the better part of a year. Uh
yeah,
so now that you say that, I definitely hear it and your all's music, it definitely evokes something emotionally that Neurosis always did for me as well. Between the pacing, the textures, and the ambience, and this kind of ominous, almost foreboding kind of melodic sense. So
yeah.
yeah,
That's it. You nailed it. Yeah, that's it.
it definitely all makes sense now. Since you're a Neurosis fan, did you check out Absent and Body whenever that album came out? Like what was it, a year or two ago?
I did not. Oh no, I gave it a quick spin, but I didn't get to. I never took the chance to sit with it. I'm really like, yeah, I'm weird, man. I'll go through these
Yeah.
long phases where I just won't listen to any metal. I'll listen to like weird ambient shit or like academia music or like like weird
Sure.
instrumental stuff and whatnot. Sometimes it comes in waves, but a lot of the newer stuff, and then it'll take me a few years after something comes out to like catch up with it.
No judgment here. Frank Zappa's probably one of my favorite musicians ever, so it's like anything's game.
Yeah, right. That's right.
Um, I was on a big Adrian Belew kick last week, so and a bunch of
All
his.
right, I'm not familiar enough.
Oh, he played with Zappa, David Bowie, King
Oh,
Crimson, um, and he did a bunch of studio work for Nine Inch Nails. So he was just kind of all over the place, a really
wow.
eccentric kind of player. So,
Yeah.
but
Huh.
and I think he has.
I obviously know his stuff. I just didn't realize it.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's one of those guys. It's like I don't know. I guess like I don't know why this was the first example that popped in my mind, but like Brent Mason, like a country session guitar player who's like on every
Mhm.
country record in the
Yep.
90s and early 2000s. Like, just one of those guys that just makes their rounds, but they don't really chase fame or nothing. But you know how it is.
Yeah, but whatever, man. They get to have an incredible career, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, so going into what kind of goals do you have set for either yourself as a musician personally or within the context of the band as a whole?
Oh, I mean, I think they've just kind of always been the same. I've always, or they're symbiotic, I guess would be a better way to put it. I've used the band as a means to, so I'm always trying to conjure a particular emotion, like I was talking about earlier with the songwriting, and that really will coincide with um, sort of philosophical outlooks, and not. I mean, I know that's kind of what everybody does, but I mean more so of and when I talked about that, find that vein or that worm in the wood. It's like uh, uh, I think wisdom and knowledge is true. I think wisdom specifically lies in um, and is communicated by emotion, and I think that emotion is um, it's obviously a spectrum like light or sound or anything, and I think that finding particular emotional harmonies or just a very specific emotion like a is a very specific sort of frequency, but that that I like to. That's how I like to leverage Withered, you know, and it's obviously within a particular emotional space because we're always kind of doing a, you know, trying to chase that sort of foreboding or even a forlorn type of mood, you know, like for some reason there's a longing or something that I'm always attached to. That's like a, yeah, I don't know. It's never satiated or something. So I'm always trying to find that, get that as like the main, the main trajectory, and then um, find out what harmonizes with it, you know, or what colorizations sort of complement it to then give it a new perspective. So I'm always, this is, it's kind of hard to um, articulate, but take a particular experience and spin it around and see the backside of it, or see it, you know, from another perspective, another angle, and it comes from sort of an emotional thing. It's kind of in the gut. You just kind of feel it when there's something new, you know. So like we'll hit on a thing, and I don't know. I can just feel it. It'll just resonate right there in the gut, you know. And it's like, so I'm constantly looking to expand upon that, and that
Hmm.
mirrors sort of my um, philosophical interests, or I got pretty heavy into, well, going from being raised Southern Baptist and then swinging all the way to atheism because I decided that the best move was to start from nothing, right? So start from nothing and build back up to really understand what existence is all about and um, what this whole experience is, you know, of being here and that kind of thing. So like the biggest of all questions, right? So it's like I took that approach and it led me down some interesting paths, and even speaking with and learning a lot from gosh, all the once again the Swedish black metal bands. The Swedes do everything the best. I don't know what it is, man, but those guys, so like Vatane and Marduk and all, like it's nice to have some esoteric conversations with some of those guys. And so
Yeah.
really early on in the mid 2000s, I started delving into that and nihilism and Nietzsche and all that kind of crap, just to come at it from the whole other end of the spectrum, right? And just as an appreciation for perspective. Not that I was adhering to anything, because I'm not a dogma guy or anything, but and so my experimentation into philosophical perspective
Hmm.
um, gets sort of again. I think that when I tap into something that I regard as genuine wisdom, not just knowledge, but like wisdom, like something that's an existential lesson.
Hmm.
It's there's I know it to be real or to have truth when it has a specific emotional signature. That's the word I was looking for earlier. It has a specific emotional signature that accompanies the concept, the intellectual concept.
Hmm.
And when that happens, when you have both of them happening together and it resonates together, for me, that's always proven to be like timeless wisdom, kind of a thing. So I think that when I can stumble upon one of those threads, then the best way I know to communicate emotion is through music. So I've always said that music is the language of the soul, which I'm not the first person to say that. But when I was a kid, I came up with that, and I thought that was, like a poignant thing. But I really do, it's like music is the most powerful way to communicate something, right? So
It's definitely a lot more empathy and insight than I would say a lot of your peers would share. Um,
well, hey man,
I,
getting in the mosh pit and drinking beer is awesome too.
sure,
Like it's all part of the thing, but it's whatever the things
right.
are. Yeah.
No, I find it I find it interesting. I had a similar conversation with Kyle from Vitriol a while back,
Oh, right.
and
Okay.
we kind of delved into it's almost like two schools of thought with extreme music. Um,
Uh-huh.
and it's almost like horror movies, where there's kind of different schools of thought with horror movies.
Sure.
On the one camp, um, let let's call I don't mean to there's definitely not, right or wrong or one over the other or anything like that, but just for simplicity's sake, let's call the one camp, I don't know, like the caveman camp or
Oh yeah.
something. Just because it's more straightforward and simplistic. You've got like your Cannibal Corpse, Mortician,
Dude, I
and then
love
the
my kitchen.
and then yeah, and then the movie equivalent would probably be something like Friday the 13th, right? Like a straightforward slasher. There's
Classic
no
slash.
subtext. There's no there's nothing to look into or analyze or pick apart, right? It's just
Yeah.
lighthearted in a way and fun, and that's cool. Um, and then there you delve deeper into, but why is it fun? And why is dark and extreme and all this stuff fun? Um, and is there other emotions? Because nothing is just black and white or just one thing. You get into almost like a high art form of it. Um, I would equate you guys in there, vitriol.
Thanks.
Um, I would say Gorguts.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, yeah. They're very brainy.
And
Yeah.
the band Death. There's a lot of deep thinkers within death metal, and movie equivalent would be something that's like an A24 movie, like Hereditary
Yeah,
or
I love A24 movies, man.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of it seems to be one or the other. I've noticed.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that, like something about, I've thought about that a lot because, especially as people want to discard or not take extreme music very seriously, more so in the past, I guess. Nowadays, it's been around long enough that
yeah.
it's here to stay, and people, it's getting popular or its own popular media and stuff now, which is wild. But I think that the one thing that's in common with both of those camps is, the people that, the classic slasher thing or whatever, the camp A is like, a lot of that is just, it's escapism, right? But it's also because it's tough. So I think both camps are they're doing the same thing, just in that they're playing with um, experiential theoreticals. So it's like even the horror side of it, or like same thing that horror movies do, which I love. You know, it gets the chills going, and you get all excited. I love going to haunted houses and get the shit scared out of me, and all that kind of thing. And that's
Yeah.
because it gives you the chance to play around with an emotional experience that's rare, or in those cases you may only experience it once, right? So it's like,
Right.
you know, like the real version of it, right?
Sure.
So you get to play with your fears, and you get to um experiment with what that experience is like, because otherwise it's just theoretical, right? You can just kind of imagine what it is. And I think that which, by the way, those horror movies would be shit without the music, right? The music
Oh
is
yeah.
what's really is what sells the emotion there. So that and then like the visceral experience of a live band doing it and doing it well, even if it is a, you know, a mortician or somebody like that, is, you know, that it's like um it can do that for you, and it can like it brings you to that place that you don't go to normally. um and from the other camp is just doing the same thing. You know, we're playing around with um theoretical emotional experiences, you know, and I think that that's also gateways into, it might be a little more nuanced, I guess, maybe, or something. And it's only because, for me at least, is I grew up doing all the crazy mosh, you know, all that horror movie stuff as a kid, you know, and it can be, um, I don't want to say it's a gateway, but well, it was for me at least. It was a gateway into finding the more nuanced and more sort of introspective uh, places to be, where you take it more seriously. So it's like you have the escapism, and then you have the hyper realism, you know, which
Yeah.
is where we kind of ended up. You know, we want to deal. I want to deal with real emotions, or not real emotions, but like, because it's all real, but you know, I'm getting at things that we may actually be going through, and a lot
Yeah.
of it is things that I'm going through by being curious and researching esoteric mysticism and ancient teachings and wisdoms that were lost, and all of those kinds of things. You know, that's what really gets me off these days. Um, so it just, yeah, I think it's a phase. Horror movies are a phase. Like I always, you know, what I'm always watching horror movies and getting out of it the same things I did when I was 15. You know,
Sure.
so yeah.
Um, well, sorry, there's like one of three different ways I wanted to take that. I was trying to decide which one to go with first.
Oh, okay.
Um, uh, so I know, well, as you just stated, big fan of horror movies, and mentioned Hereditary, but what are some of the best movies you've seen in the last, I don't know, 5, 10 years? More recent films. What are some that you've enjoyed? I'm just curious.
I'm a big fan of the Candyman franchise. When I was a kid, I saw the first one,
Hmm.
and it played all the time, like on Showtime or HBO or one of
Yeah.
those. And I remember being young and watching it, and it actually scaring the shit out of me, you know. And so I became a fan of that, and I like the second one, and it did what every franchise does. But the new one that just came out a couple of years ago, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was like a solid contribution,
I
and,
liked it a
and
lot
sort of
too.
a reinvention of the franchise. I loved it. I actually
Yeah,
took my stepson to meet Tony Todd at a screening.
that's cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. Yeah.
I uh I love the old ones, especially the original one. Tony Todd's amazing, and it kind of turns a little bit into almost like Bruce Campbell with Evil Dead, where you almost not you don't watch it solely for that person, but it is one of the highlights for you, and it becomes a conscious thing. Like they just kind of eat up screen time, or Doug Bradley as Pinhead and Hellraiser.
Yeah, man.
Um, but it's kind of cool to have. the new Candyman where it's a reimagining, and it kind of takes focus away from having like like a singular actor that just kind of eats up all the screen time, and it makes it kind of restructured it to where it's way more narrative and way more kind of psychological. And I don't know, it made me more invested into what was going on. There was some like weird kind of writing things, and felt like it kind of jumped a couple places here and there, but that's
Yeah,
more nitpicky.
yeah,
Um,
nothing's too perfect in those. I
yeah,
think for the most part they did a good job. Yeah, there was definitely a couple of moments, but
but no, I thought it was fun. I thought it was a great take. Anytime you have any kind of franchise that becomes kind of focused on a singular character like that, it's cool to kind of rearrange the story to get away from it a bit,
yeah,
and um, and kind of leans into ambiguity and metaphors a little bit.
yeah. That's what
Um,
I'm. You know, I'm a sucker for that kind of thing anyway. That the concept, and that the mechanism is larger
yeah,
than anyone. Like creating, making Tony Todd's character sort of into just the conduit of this thing that sort of has always been and is
sure.
manifested through him, but then is now getting passed on. That's yeah, I'm a sucker for that kind of shit and
Oh
stuff.
yeah. Um, Speaking of remakes, and I promise this won't turn into a movie podcast, but
I don't mind.
did you ever catch the Suspiria remake, or
I did
even watch?
not. I did not. I am a fan. I used to watch the old ones a lot.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm super leery of remakes, man. So it's just
That's probably one of the better remakes, like just in general, because it
oh,
is
okay.
so different from it has almost nothing in common with the original one, and in good ways. Um, like I guess the general idea is the same, but almost none of the events or dialogue or anything.
Oh, good.
Certainly not the ending. Um, so it's definitely more of a reimagining than a remake.
Yeah, I
So
was gonna say, I especially that kind of movies, like reimagining is the way to go for
yeah,
sure.
which I like old Giallo movies too. Um, my wife isn't as into them, or like any kind of older campier kind of movies. She's not as into.
Yeah.
Um, But so I've tried playing her the original, and other than, the original theme, which is so cool. Um, Other than that, she wasn't super into it, but
Yeah.
the remake is one of her favorite movies of all time.
Oh
So,
wow. All right. Well, I'll check it out then. I've been trying to find something else to watch. I turn on that fucking machine up there and I'm like, oh, I want to watch something cool. And then I'm just like, there's too much shit, man.
yeah.
I don't even have the strength to like dig through it and find something. I get pretty lazy that way.
I will add the music in the new one is it's different than the original,
Uh-huh.
but it is super cool and sells every scene just like it should. So
All right.
I think you'd appreciate it.
All right. No, I'm into it, man. I'm into it.
Um, with that, we will kind of transition into I normally do just a top four death metal bands or albums, like whatever
Uh-huh.
your Mount Rushmore is, whatever influences you. But given the context of the way our conversation went, I think it'd be interesting
I
to
already
get.
did it.
Did you? Okay, okay.
I
Uh,
mean, I can go through them again. It's pretty short list. Yeah.
yeah.
But
Um,
continue. Sorry.
well, I think it'd be kind of cool to we mentioned how there's like a couple different camps of
Oh
extreme
yeah.
music. So what's a couple what's a couple bands that you love just for the sheer riffs and the feel of the songs? It's just kind of, you know, more caveman appeal versus a couple bands that are way more thought-provoking that you can kind of delve deeper into, and you really take something away from.
Um, Yeah, let's see. That's
and
are
they're
you talking like older, like formative stuff, or just period?
period. And
Oh,
they
okay.
don't have to be mutually exclusive, but normally,
I understood. So anything,
yeah.
right? Anything.
Sure, yeah.
Well, I mean, again, I could, as far as the just for the riff and the headbang worthiness, it's sort of again, I can almost anything Swedish. It's like even I mean everything from their grindcore, you know, out. It's like all of it is fucking man. They as far as heavy music goes, man, they got it down. Even hard rock, they do fantastic hard rock.
Yeah.
But another black metal, like it's just got the hooks, man. It's just all about the hooky riffs. So, like I said, the Grave you'll never see. I was a big Soulless fan too. I like Hating Life a lot because a lot of people didn't. Not because that's not why I liked it, but it was like such a weird experiment of an album with just the two of them. I like that one too. Uh, but I want to group all that together. So instead of bands or single albums, I'm going to do eras. I think
Okay.
maybe. But I mentioned Slowly We Rot as being a big one for me. That one gets me off pretty good. Um, golly, um, I'm going to say Dead Congregation. I think Dead Congregation lands right in the middle of that. Like they got completely memorable hooky riffs, but there's also a lot of it's very thoughtful, right? It's very intentionally put together and intelligently put together as well. So uh and ultra brutal. Yeah, it's fantastic. But um uh, to go all and to bring up Caveman, I'm a big Vastum nerd. Also mentioning Bay Area stuff again, and Northwest stuff. All that Vastum stuff and all the stuff that those guys are doing is uh, all the other bands that they're doing is fantastic as well. So I'm a big fan of that scene. Um, and golly, I think that on the smarter side of things, you mentioned Gorguts. I'm a big fan of that stuff. I'm not a prog guy though, so I don't really get into like even like you mentioned Def. That kind of stuff can be hit and miss for me actually. But
Fair enough.
um, I guess because it might be a little more on the brainy side than on the emotional side, right? So
Yeah.
it's got to strike a nerve with me, I guess, uh, to be super memorable.
I guess
And
that's kind of the
if I were to go into the more well thought out stuff, it tends to be more like black metal, or even
sure.
gazier stuff or funeral. I'm a big funeral metal guy too, so I like some of all that kind of stuff too. But
Yeah, that's sick.
yeah,
I
and that is pretty evident, I think, in what we do.
sure. And I
So
and I guess to speak on what you mentioned, I guess that would be sort of the difference between experimental versus progressive. Progressive tends to also include like the musicality and can be like a bit more technical and kind of go in these
yeah,
different kind of
yeah,
brainier areas where experimental is just usually um, different kind of instrumentation or atmosphere or texture kind of thing.
yeah. I like that stuff. Yeah, really
Yeah,
like experimental stuff. I always find it to be important to sort of, I always want to grab people like where they're comfortable,
hmm
so that you kind of can develop a little bit of trust there, and then guide them into new places a little bit. So yeah, I'm also like in that vein. I'm a centrist when it comes to pretty much anything. I'm like I'm an up the middle guy. I think extremes in any perspective are you're missing half the show. So
right.
yeah,
No, I get it. Absolutely. I'm
or half the
right there with
experience.
you.
It's all there. Yeah. So
Well, man, I think that covers pretty much all my questions. I want to thank you for taking the time to do this and showing us your all's practice space. Is
oh
there any
yeah.
Is there anything that you'd like to plug real quick before we hop off here?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, we're there's not a whole lot going on for us. Oh, we did just repress for the first time our first album on CD, and I did it on my label, which is this Atlanta Grind Productions or Atlanta Grind Posse. It's an old like joke scene thing from the '90s that we did in our crust punk and grindcore days. But so and it's on our Bandcamp and stuff. So that's been out of press for years and years and years. But we finally redid that, and we released it on that last tour that you saw us on. So,
Sweet.
and I don't know. I think we got some new merch designs and shit like that coming out, and then hopefully we'll have a new album here before too long. So,
Killer.
that's it.
What's your all's next tour schedule look like?
We don't have anything locked in right now. We blocked off the next few months for writing.
Mm-hmm.
We're really, really slow to write. But I think we're shooting for, we usually get a wild hair up our ass before too long and just have to go fucking play. Cause I only write records to play shows, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
I put a lot of thought and effort into them, but I really just want to perform. I just want to do that exchange of energy. Like that's what I'm here for. But so in other words, it doesn't take very long before I get stir crazy and need to go play. And chances are we got a few one-offs that might be popping up, maybe some fests or some regional stuff, so people can just keep an eye on stuff. Nothing formal yet. And then we'll probably tour again. I'm gonna say probably in the fall, late summer or something. A few things in the works, but I don't remember. It's
Sure.
nothing sooner than that. I don't think so.
All right. Well, everybody, you heard it. Make sure you go check out Withered, pick up that re-release. Look forward to some new music and yeah, just keep posted for tours. But
Oh yeah.
thanks again, Mike, and we will see you guys later.